Hi, we are going to solve multi-step SOHCAHTOA problems today. So we have this triangle that has, it looks like two different triangles within it that we can break into two different triangles. But the directions say to solve, to find the length of x and round within the problem while solving, and your final answer to the nearest tenth. So when you guys are doing SOHCAHTOA or trig problems, whatnot, with multiple steps, it is extremely important that you watch your rounding. So look at the directions and follow it closely. For this one, it says to round within the problem. So as you're solving, you're going to get decimal answers that you're going to need to use in the next steps. So you need to make sure that you round those answers to the nearest tenth before you move on to the next step of the problem. Since this is all on the computer, of course, we all know if you enter your answer just a little wrong, it's going to count it wrong. Okay, so it's really important that we follow this direction. Okay, so let's go ahead and find this side length. So we have, it looks like a right triangle, which is great because then we can do SOHCAHTOA. And then obviously if we have one right angle, the supplementary is another right angle. This one looks to be right, but we can't assume it's right. So what we need to do is, if we did 45 and 55, add that together, that's 100. So that would be angle 80. So we can't use that as a right angle. So let's pull out what we know. It looks like we don't know much. So if we pull out these two triangles here, we got 45 and 22, and then we have this guy at 55 and x, right? So we don't have much to work with, but because we know this one, we could use a reference triangle if we wanted to, but now we know how to do trigonometry without using reference triangles, which might be a little bit nicer. So this one we don't know anything but the angle. We have to have another piece of information. So if we were to find out this guy, that would also be this guy. So we could figure out what this value is, and then over here we could do OH, we could do sine to figure out that x value. So let's start doing that one. So let's go ahead and label these with AH's and O's like we always do. So that would be an O, that would be an H, this is A, which we don't care about. So which one of our sine, cosine, or tangent has O and H to work with, which would be sine. So we're going to do sine of our degree, which is 45 degrees, equals O, so we don't know what that guy is, over H, which we do know is 22. Okay, go ahead and make this into a fraction equals a fraction, cross multiply, 1 times y is y, and then 22 sine 45. Okay, getting out our handy dandy calculator, we said 22 sine 45. So we get 15.56. Okay, so here we don't want to write 15.556, whatever. We want to round to the nearest tenth within the problem, which is what it says, okay? So we want to the nearest tenth, so we look at the second decimal spot, so that's a 5, that one's going to round up. So we get 15.6. So the y value is 15.6, okay, which is great. We don't need that as an answer, but we have to have it in order to figure out what x is. So we know this is 15.6. Okay, so again, let's label everything AH's and O's. So here's our O, here's our H, same ratio. So we're going to do, let's switch this over. We're going to do sine of 55 degrees equals our opposite over our hypotenuse, which is what we don't know. Okay, so this one's a little different than the other one here because the variable is on the bottom. So we're going to crisscross this guy. So we're going to go x sine 55 degrees equals 1 times 15.6. So just 15.6. Okay, now this looks scary, but remember that this is just a very weird number. Sine 55 is a number. When you have a trig with followed by a number, it's just a number, right? So let's figure out what that is. So sine 55 is 81915, right? So it's really saying x times that number is equal to 15.6. So this is being multiplied. So let's go ahead and divide by it. And I'm going to divide by the entire sine 55 term. Okay, so now we have x equals, and then we're going to put in our calculator, 15.6 divided by sine 55 degrees, and we'll get our answer out, okay? So make it easy and put it all in as one step. So we're going to put 15.6 divided by sine 55. We don't need to close the parentheses if we don't want to. If you want to, go for it. So now we have our y value is 19 point, round to the nearest hundredth, which is just going to be 0. So we could write it like this. Now, on these problems, hopefully we caught them all, but when you're entering your answers and it says round to the nearest 10th, if necessary, it's not necessary on this one. So you would write 19 as your answer. However, because it does say the 10th and we've been rounding to the 10th throughout, this is also an acceptable answer, and I hope we caught all of those and made that as a second option for your answer when you're entering it in the computer. Okay, so that's how we solve that one. Let's look. It looks like we have another one. All right, go ahead and write this guy down and then we'll solve it. So it looks like we just want the x value. So if we take out that triangle, we got 56 here, x here, and that's all we know. We need two values in order to solve this guy, in addition to the right angle. Whoops, this one is supposed to have a right angle. We can't assume it, but I just wrote it wrong. It is supposed to have one. Okay, so we can't really do anything with this triangle, but let's go ahead and pull out that one on the left. So we get, it looks like this length is 48. And the height we don't know, but we do know that this top angle is 22 degrees. So this triangle, we could figure something else out, okay? We don't know what this value is on either of them. So let's use this triangle to figure out y, and then we'll use that value to figure out what we actually really need. Okay, label A, H's, and O's. So this time we got O and A. So that would be a tangent. So tangent of 22 degrees equals my opposite over my adjacent. Okay, then again, we can put it over here, crisscross. We're going to get y times tan 22 equals 48. Remember, tan 22 is just a scary way to write a number. So we're going to divide by that number. So we get y equals, and then in our calculator, we're going to do 48 divided by tan 22. Especially if you're taking a test or something, it's always very helpful just to make sure you're in that degree mode instead of radian, okay? Because it will come up as a different answer. All right, 48 divided by tan of 22 degrees, enter. So we get 118 point, round to the nearest 10th. That would be 8, okay? So now we have this value. So this guy we know is 118.8. So now we can find the x. So let's go ahead and label that guy. So we're going with the 56. You could take an extra step and figure out that angle and work with that angle if this top one is a little weird for you. So O and A again. So we're going to do tangent of 56 degrees equals opposite over adjacent. 118, that's a big number, but look at that little side is 48. So that, it looks good. It doesn't, even though it looks like a very big number, it doesn't seem off. X times 1 is x. 118.8 times tangent of 56. So that one, 118.8 tangent of 56 degrees, and we get 176.1. Okay, and that is the only one that we wanted. Sure, we had to find another value just to figure out the one that we wanted, but there you go.